You know, it may be hard to see what's behind me, but friends, that's bamboo. My wife and I are back in Mentone, Alabama. We're in a place where we moved to more than 40 years ago, right out of Atlanta. We were out in the country. God began to change our lives and our hearts. And this was the place that He did it. This is His theater of operation for the life of Darlene and me. When Darlene and I pulled up in Mentone in that long driveway, that would be an educational experience for me, walking and running that driveway for the next 10 years. But when we pulled up, we had a car full of junk, 2 Great Dane dogs, and a big load of personal problems. But you know, the God saw us, He was drawing us, and He was going to use that to help us. And He would later reveal Himself more fully. But in the early days, it was the scenes of nature speaking peace and hope to our hearts. He even used those 2 big old Great Danes named Sheba and Juno. He used those dogs. Got many spiritual lessons. Job 12:7 says, "Ask the beast, and he shall teach thee, they shall teach thee." And got a lot of experiences interacting with, you know, animals and nature and wildlife that really pointed us to the kingdom of God. Yeah, just over my shoulder, this is the road that my wife and I would, we put a lot of miles in on this road back and forth. This was our driveway here in Mentone. I remember when we first got here, I was drinking a lot. I made the progressive move to start doing homemade beer and wine. So no bisulfates, no preservatives. And I had like a bank account. If I drank like 8 beers that night, the next morning I'd get up and run 2 miles. If I drank 12 beers, I'd get up and run 3 miles. I was keeping my bank account balanced. Now I know today that sounds insane when I say it, but back then it sounded perfectly sane. The problem is, a man that's lost his mind, he can't see insanity when it's right in front of his face. Proverbs 14:12, "There's a way that seemeth right to a man, the end thereof is the way of death." And my wife and I, we were dying. We were dead spiritually, dying physically, just slowly poisoning ourselves with alcohol and different things. And God brought us here, I think, to bring us into contact with nature. Psalms 19:2, "Day unto day utter His speech." And what nature was saying was conflicting with the voice of the carnal heart. This was leading toward life. There was beauty in nature. And many of my habits were leading toward death, and there's nothing beautiful in death. John 10:10, "Thief comes but to steal, kill, and destroy." That was the road I was on. And then I found this little driveway here, our driveway in Mentone. It ended up being the road to life and life more abundantly, because Christ somehow found my mind and my heart on this road and began to speak to me lessons of life. It was not an overnight process, dear friends. It stretched into years. But I thank God for the work He did. And when I walked this driveway for the last time, I came out of here different from when I walked in. 10 years in this place. It indelibly changed our lives. It changed the direction that the direction of our minds, of our thinking, of our desires, of our hearts. And I think the Lord still today, He uses the beautiful, peaceful, quiet scenes and sounds of nature to draw our hearts. And so a lot of things, it's easy to see in retrospect, you know, as you look back. But when you're going through it, it's kind of hard to see everything. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 12, "Because now we see through glass darkly, but then face to face." Everything today is kind of cloudy because we can't see with clear discernment. But if we had spiritual discernment and could see the whole picture, we'd realize that, for instance, that driveway, that was a classroom that the Lord had prepared for me. And Jeremiah 23:23, it says, "Am I a God afar off?" No. He's a God at hand. He's a God at hand. He's not a God afar off. And so at hand means, of course, within your reach. The Lord walked with me up and down that road for many, many years, a decade, trying to draw me to Him. It wasn't the Luke 24 road to Emmaus. Nevertheless, Christ was traveling that road. And as I look back in retrospect, I can see so many experiences that would awaken in my mind desire to have something better than I did, and a growing desire for something real, something true, you know, spiritual in my life. I didn't have anything like that. You know, last summer, I went back to Mentone, and the new owner, I called him up, told him I'm the man, that the old hippie guy, you know, that built the cabin a long time ago. And he invited me to go over there and take pictures and visit the place. So I did. We went over there. We revisited, and some of this video that I'm going to show was made last summer. Now I'm going to go back later this month, take a few more pictures, maybe make a few more videos. But you know, as I do it, I'm looking back in retrospect at all the things that God did for us. Couldn't see it at the time. It's a sobering experience to look back 40 years from children, just kids in their 20s. Now I'm 65. And the passing of time, 4 decades, where did it go? But the Lord has made, Ecclesiastes 3:11, He makes all things beautiful in His time. The Lord 40 years ago could see me standing here today with these words in my mouth, and He knew what was coming. And dear friends, He still does today. He's a God that reads the future, the past, and the present. He orders and plans our lives out, and the final destination, of course, is the kingdom of heaven. Not Mentone, not an earthly city. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 10, Abraham looked for a city that hath foundations, whose builder maker was God. In verse 13, Abraham said, he's just a pilgrim and a stranger passing through to a better place. So may God help us to be faithful on the journey. Dear friends, it's a long road home, but it's a road worth traveling. So may the Lord help us to, to have some foresight, to walk by faith and not by sight, and believe that even though we can't see God, He says in 23:23 of Jeremiah, I am a God at hand, saith the Lord, not a God afar off. God bless you, my friends. You have a nice day. It was a long road home. This was part of the journey.